basically every application is written based.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we're working with artists, we're working with incredible minds, and yet we're asking them to fit their ideas into these tiny little boxes. And my brain doesn't work in that way. I don't like to fit it into 50 words or whatever. Test. Hello. I'm going to need to move my arms a lot. That's how I speak.
Yeah. Okay. Because you're a mover.
Oh, I might be good at this.
1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone. This is Cinematography for Actors podcast. I'm Haley, still in London, still without Indiana, but here with an angel. Just this wonderful friend who I've had for years now. I've missed her very much. It's Pheebs. Phoebe Stapleton is here.
Baby.
Hi, Phoebe.
Hi. So good to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
So good to see you. Yours anytime.
I get to see your amazing face and how well you're doing. I feel so proud of you. Look at all of this.
God, I'm starstruck right now by you, sitting across from you. I know Phoebe because we were in a play together years ago when I lived in London. It was called Daughter. And it was kind of experimental and interesting. It was an adaptation of many different Shakespeare stories. The tragic daughters of Shakespeare all together kind of in an afterlife situation, maybe. We never really got to the bottom of what had happened to these women, but we were chained up. We performed in this theater called the Courtyard Theater. Which was a place where it was not West End, definitely. It was not off West End even. It was just a small, basically a pub theater, rental theater, but there was not really, I guess there was a little bar, but it wasn't a pub. People didn't hang out there. It was a theater, but it was like a neighborhood theater, and it had such an incredible faithful following of people who just lived in the area or people who had performed there before would come and pay money to see these super amateur productions. I mean, I was the managing director. I didn't know what I was doing.
No,
we
were
were
great.
Amateurs, and people would come and see these shows, and it was incredible, and it's something that you don't really see where I live now in Los Angeles. It's something that I miss about London, is that people just take a chance on theater here.
Totally.
They'll spend their money to see some random show with some young kids in it. It's
totally
amazing.
I think fringe theatre is a massive thing in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful because it's where a lot of people are discovered. It's where you get really exciting writing, and tickets are a lot more affordable. Whereas if you go to the West End, tickets are £200 now. And completely inaccessible to many, many, many people.
Yeah, and it's sometimes better.
Yeah.
I mean...
Definitely.
I mean, yeah, there's something to be said for big shows that cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but when someone is so desperate to make art that they will put every drop of their savings into putting a fringe show together, there's a lot of passion there.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's really magical, isn't it, when you just have a really talented performer and, I don't know, they're on a black box stage and they've got a wooden spoon. Yeah. And then suddenly you're completely transported into this completely different world. Personally, I'd rather see that than thousands, millions of pounds being pumped into a show.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't need pyrotechnics.
No, I don't need them. Give me the spoon dance.
Give me the spoon dance. Actually... Yeah, spoon dance, we should just go right into it. Phoebe's a mover. Phoebe moves. She's a movement director. She is into motion and kind of has been, since I met you. Yeah. I remember you had an audition that the director was it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but awesome. He had to put you in our show.
Yeah, this sounds like me.
Yeah, because you had made a video.
Yeah.
And your audition was a video it was probably movement, but at one point you opened your mouth and stuff just came out of your mouth. And your audition was, you just held the laptop. You stood in front of him and held your laptop and played the video, and then you were like, thank you. And you left.
I must have been, 19? I think I was 19.
Yeah. So indicative of what a creative person you are.
Yeah, and I've always done stuff like that. Like, I've always been way more interested in sort of like the cross-combined arts. And how can I tell this in a way that no one else is going to tell? And I think I've got better and more refined at that than when I was at 19 rocking up with a laptop. And I remember saying, like, opening the laptop and then just doing my monologue behind the laptop.
Yeah, that's right. You did a monologue behind the laptop.
And at the same time, I did the one for Lavinia. But before we move on from the Courtyard Theatre, I think we have to discuss the friends that were with us. Do you remember?
Oh, yes.
So part of my role is playing Lavinia, and she didn't really have any words. It was just told physically, which is quite interesting. Think about that now. But there was like a bit of it where I was lying on the floor and I could see underneath the seats, and then I could see like all these little furry feet running up and down. Oh my God. And the whole underneath the seats were just covered in rats. Loads and loads of rats.
Oh my God.
Creepy.
Yeah. Rats. And you couldn't say anything.
No,
because Phoebe's whole role was silent.
Yeah.
Just kind of chained up in the back, being silent until the end when you delivered this heartbreaking monologue, and it had everyone on stage and off just sobbing every single night. Just like, finally you get to say something, and you just like would bring the house down every single night. But in the meantime, you had to just lie there on the ground with the rats. Real rats in the theater. We're not talking about we had like animatronic. No. There were rats in this theater.
Yes.
And we also brought real dirt in.
Yeah, we did.
Not theater dirt,
and
real dirt.
No, real dirt. Like, where did that come from? A skip? Maybe it came from a skip. But it had like little bits of glass.
We had to go pick the glass out.
No.
As a cast.
Is really bad.
As a cast, this group of women dug through the dirt that we were bringing in to pick the glass out of it. If anyone ever tries to tell any of us that we don't love theater.
Exactly. Yeah, we did that.
I will refer them to this episode and remind them. And also, we performed barefoot.
Yeah.
That was a requirement.
Barefoot, and it was freezing.
It was freezing cold. Freezing cold, glass in the dirt, rats, performing barefoot.
Yeah.
And our hands were handcuffed most of the time.
I didn't have hands.
That... Oh my God, that's right.
Didn't have any hands.
Because Lavinia doesn't have hands. Phoebe didn't even get hands.
Yes.
Oh my God. Were you tied? You were tied together somehow, though,
I was
right?
Tied together.
You were still...
Didn't have any hands.
But
I wasn't allowed to speak.
We really put Phoebe through one.
But I actually loved that role.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. It's very me, that role. Like, I don't really perform so much now, but I was always interested in those parts. Like, what's the physical role? I never really wanted to be the lead part. I wanted to be the part that was going to come out of like a suitcase or the part that was going to fold out the desk. Like, I was always interested in that. I've always loved clowning as well. So yeah, any sort of like physical role I was really excited about.
It's so great because I feel like I think about you often, actually, when I'm thinking about how important it is to find the thing that is yours and find the thing that you love and that lights you up personally, and maybe nobody else in the world is going to understand it.
Yeah.
Because I remember meeting your parents actually before a show once. And your mom was talking about how she was like, "Oh yeah, Phoebe's always been weird."
She's always been strange.
She's always been very strange. Because she was like, yeah, we'd hear some noise happening up in her room, and it's just Phoebe. That is incredible that you have managed. I mean, I don't know about we all struggle internally, but from the outside, it looks like you knew that you wanted to be a little strange, and the thing that you wanted to do was not what everyone else was going to want to do, and you really chased it. And there's so much power in that, and it's so refreshing to meet somebody and to know somebody who's like, I do this because I like it, and now you help other people do it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it all started because I started in dance first, and I'd make like these really elaborate pieces for just like school plays, whereas everyone else would get up and do like a really brilliant and lovely like street dance to like I don't know, a 2-minute track.
Yeah,
I'd be like, no. I'm going to create like a 10-minute piece with multiple different songs. There's going to be like set, there's going to be props. I'm going to do all these different dance forms all in one sequence. Like, why choose one when you can do them all?
Yeah. Do them all.
And yeah, do them all.
And you put the work in here too. Like, it's not like you're like, I want to do funky things because no one wants to do it, and that means I'll get picked.
Yeah,
no, you're putting in a lot of work to make sure that the things you're doing are good.
Yeah, I was very strange. I would spend like hours just in my bedroom creating like little pieces, and I didn't have like really any furniture in my bedroom because I didn't really want it. I just wanted a small bed in the corner and a big mirror. So then my bedroom was actually like a studio.
A space though that you could...
Yeah, I wasn't really interested in stuff. I just wanted to create stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I always made things. And then, so I trained mainly in dance until I was about 18, and I went to a dance school. So I did all like dance within the Western canon. So I did ballet, tap, jazz, contemporary, all of that stuff. And then I reached 18, and it was funny, like I felt like I was really good at the technique. I really was good at dancing, but I never felt like a dancer. Like I always had ideas and loads of opinions, and I wanted people to listen to those ideas and opinions. And I didn't feel like I could do that through dance. But then I started to discover, I found out about the practitioner like Pina Bausch and Robert Wilson and Theatre Complicité, and I got really excited about the idea of making my own work. And then that's when I went on to do my BA, where I went to E15, and I studied like the contemporary theatre course, which you do get to create your own work, and there's more of a emphasis on how can you build companies and write your own plays, and more of an emphasis on physical performance as well, like clown and commedia dell'arte and all of these things. And I just got obsessed with that, of finding a way that I can combine both acting and dance to tell the story. Then I graduated and I started working in loads of different physical theatre companies, and again making my own work, and I was always the person to solve the problems. Like I would build the dances, I would create the transitions, and I enjoyed doing that. I really cared about the piece as a whole, and I wanted the whole piece to have like a movement language that existed throughout the whole play, which made sense. And then another wonderful movement director called Jess Tucker-Boyd, shout out to Jess Tucker-Boyd, she sort of educated me on what a movement director was, and I was like, oh, this makes sense. I think I'm that. Like, I really enjoy dance, I really enjoy acting, I really enjoy choreography, but I don't just want to choreograph, I want to think about how is the body a form of an expression. And movement director.
Amazing.
That's where I am now. And also to say, I'm also currently on the Masters at Central for movement directing and movement teaching, and that has changed my whole life and completely educated me so much.
For a little while, after drama school, you did act, and I know you did some children's television.
How did you find that? I started as the actor on it, and then I became like the movement director on it as well.
Okay, I didn't know that happened.
Yeah, that happened.
Okay, what was the show called?
Let's Get Active.
Let's Get Active! This is perfect. Okay, Let's Get Active, show for kids, and Phoebe was an actor.
Yeah.
And that's all at first. And then how did you move into movement directing on that show?
So it was all told on green screen, which was really interesting. But it was for children in China, and it was this whole like, seems like a very random job now that I say it out loud. But yeah, it was for a TV show in China, and it was about encouraging young children to get into activity. And that meant that so much of it wasn't told through text, it was told through the body. So I had to imagine like loads of monsters in the space, and how do I interact with them? And like, so essentially creating like physical worlds, which at the time I was movement directing, and I didn't really even know that I was movement directing.
Right.
And then whenever it came up with the scene of, we need like a litter monster, how are we going to portray the litter monster? You'd be like, Phoebe, how would you portray a litter monster? And then I suddenly became like the movement director for this TV show. But it was brilliant.
So you were all on a green screen, and you were just imagining? This was so much imagination. You were
so
having
much imagination.
Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
Just imagining them. Then like you'd have to show they would be like, okay, the monster's about this big today, or oh no, it's about down there today. So
they're just giving you a height with their hands.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
So then you have to like keep your eye line.
You're like remembering, and that's very technical. Let's talk about how technical that is to fit in with the theme of cinematography for actors. There's a lot of technical stuff that you had to know and do, keeping an eye line. How are you managing to keep eye lines for where you're on a green screen? There's nothing there. You're just imagining that there are things there. How are you keeping things in the same place?
I think probably my dance training helps me there.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that, you know, when you do a pirouette, you have your head fixate on one point and then you spin around and you come back to that point. I probably used something to do with that and translated that form into using it in eye line at that moment. But it was definitely difficult. And then although essentially it looked like a really big green screen, when you were actually in it, I then had a much smaller space that I could move around in than I expected.
Really?
And then so you had to really know the edges of your space, otherwise the green screen didn't work as well in certain different points.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
I see.
So I had to really know like the parameters that I can move in, and yeah.
And did they tell you those, or was that something that you learned as you were working?
We learned as we were working,
mm-hmm.
but eventually how did we mark it? We used like little marks eventually to mark it up, and then you could see where the edge was. But at first it was like, whoop, have I gone out?
You stepped out of the thing.
Come back in. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Was this your first job on set?
Apart from like a couple of like, I don't know, TV bits when I was a kid. This was like a continuous show. I did it for like 2 years, this children's TV show. So that was like the longest one.
Were there things that you feel like you picked up while you were there technically that you didn't learn from school?
I think eyeline, definitely. Because in school, all of the practice that we had, you were always talking to another person there.
Right.
Whereas when you're working in green screen, you have to imagine a lot, like you said. So yeah, loads of imagination, thinking about eyeline. So much of it was just a fixed shot. And then because it was green screen, they cropped in and edited that way.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So you didn't really have to worry about it?
I didn't have to worry about that. But auto cue was my first time working with auto cue.
What is auto cue?
As in when you read it.
Oh, like a teleprompter.
Yeah.
Wow. What was that like?
What was that like? So to say I've got dyslexia, so that was like really nerve-wracking.
Wow. Why did they decide to do it that way?
It was just like, I don't know why they decided. I think it was because they were always changing the script. So we were filming this in the UK, and then the script was getting sent over to a production company in China. So then they would send back like last minute notes, and then it was quickly changing. So yeah, dyslexic nightmare, but we worked it out. Were you getting a script and trying to get as familiar with it as possible, or were you just like, it's gonna be on the screen? No, definitely not. I'm not like that. I'm like definitely a major planner. I'm such a planner. So no, I wish I was cool enough to do that, but I'm not. No, I would always read it before, definitely.
Yeah. And then how did you deal with it, with your dyslexia? Did you pick up a trick?
I think put it into the body. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps because the show that I was working on was so physical. So if I know that I'm talking to some sort of animated character at this point, if I direct my lines, but also have the intention of talking to this particular character, that kind of thing, it helps me. As soon as it's in my body, I can understand it more. I
want to ask you about her fight because not only are you movement directing on projects, you also built your own project.
Yeah.
And I want to find out, because you're moving, there's probably a lot of choreography you have to create with your camera operator.
Yeah.
You directed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So please walk me through from beginning to end how you made these things work.
Well, I think first of all, to go to the title of, okay, so you're a movement director, but now you've directed a film. It's this like title is really evolving with me. It's always changing, and other people have now suggested me of like, oh, maybe you're a movement director, but maybe you're also just a director that sees through the body first. And this is something that I'm getting really excited about of, maybe you can be more than one thing.
Of course. Yeah, of course you can.
You can be more than one thing. So Her Fight is a short film, and it combines movement, symbolism, and imagery. And its stimulus is based on safety towards women and girls in public spaces. So it follows this character called Liv, and we see her getting ready for a night out, and then it keeps flicking as if it's like flicking inside her imagination to this fight dojo. And inside this fight dojo, she can take up as much space as she wants, and she can walk down the street without fear.
Right.
And in 2021, there was like this MP called Jess Phillips, and on International Women's Day, she read out this list of 118 women that had been killed by men in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard this list, and it was like I felt the weight of these women's names on my body.
Mm-hmm.
And it completely changed like my physicality. Like I wanted to be smaller in space. I wanted to walk with like this really sharp directness. I didn't want to sway my hips or like bring any sort of attention to myself. And then I started to talk to lots of other women in my life, and they were experiencing a similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they all shared their stories with me, which I'm still incredibly, incredibly grateful for. But they all shared like this real strength behind it. And this is when I came up with the idea of like, oh, we all go through these internal fights in order just to walk down the street without fear. And I really felt like this huge responsibility of, okay, how can I show and express this wild rage and also the strength? So it's mainly told this story with one performer, and that performer was called Bryony Bevan, and she's absolutely amazing. She trains. She's still in training. She trains as a dancer, but she's also a brilliant actor. Like she expresses the story through her body, and being able to work with Bryony, I'd really, really like to work with Bryony again, because she just totally gets the way that I think that it's not necessarily dance and it's not necessarily acting.
Right.
It's like this expression,
it's
and
something
it's told
between
through the body. And yeah, she's just fantastic.
The idea that art can come from something that is so painful.
Mm.
I mean, art often does come from something that is so painful. That can be terrifying. To create something that comes out of something so big.
Yeah.
Did you feel any sort of apprehension?
Totally. I remember I really remember this one night that I'd made the film and it was edited and everything, and it was about to go out, and I had this whole night where I stayed up all night, and I was so worried. I was just thinking, what have I created? Like, have I said something wrong? Maybe this isn't my place to speak, but no, I really believed in this topic, and it is very close to me, this topic, and I felt like what her fight expressed was the power and the strength of this woman, and for that I was really, really proud, and I'm really glad that since I've shown her fight, lots of people have seen that. Yeah.
Technically,
yeah.
You had to direct. You created the movement.
I did.
What was your communication like with your camera operator, and how did you keep everyone safe during movement?
So the movement came first. It's not like I wrote a script or anything like that. The movement came first. I was always thinking about, okay, what's the body saying? What feeling do I want to portray through the body?
Right.
So I created the movement first, and I made lots of the movement I was looking at. This was like a very prominent topic in the UK in 2021. It still is now, but it was particularly came to the forefront in the UK because there was many like high profile cases. So it was really in the news, and there was a lot of protests happening. So I was looking through different archived images of these protests and these women at the protests. And I was thinking of, okay, how can I take the physicality of these pictures and put them onto my body? And then how can that become the stimulus for the movement of her fight? So I started creating like that. And then I built a storyboard, and then just me and my iPhone, I would think of different shots. I'd set up these shots, and I really liked this one shot that I discovered where if I put the iPhone behind me and it's just of my shoulder blades and the shoulder blades fills the whole frame, I found this really interesting. So I started to build it like this and to then sketch it out in my storyboard. I'm terrible at drawing, but I created some primary school sketches and put them in my storyboard. And then with these, I went to the camera team. So I went to the DP and the camera operator. And together we then came up with more ideas. And I was constantly talking about like the feeling that I was trying to express and how can I then translate that into the film. But like it was difficult. This was my first. I've made many films, but this was my first film that I've sort of put into film festivals and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's like my biggest film that I've made, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I made a lot of mistakes that I would do differently now in terms of movement, and thinking about like different levels with movement was really. I love levels in movement. I love floor work so much, but it meant that I had choreographed stuff that went up and down, in and out of frame, and this is like a nightmare for the GP.
Right.
An absolute nightmare. So then I've learned from this now of, okay, when I'm working at this level of budget and team, I've got to create stuff that moves less in and out of these different levels, so I don't drive everyone crazy. But it really is about also choreographing the DP and the camera operator. And I think for me to fully achieve this, I would need a bigger budget and more time.
Right.
But I was thinking about this recently so lots of my movement background, this is the way my brain works. I go on like a ring, like
this is great.
Yeah, I think very like lateral. I think about everything at once. But so my movement background, I trained a lot in Grotowski technique. And there's this Grotowski practitioner called Alison Hodge, and she created something called Polyphonic Attention. And I really want to, on my next film, try and translate polyphonic attention between the performer and the camera. So this polyphonic attention is sort of like this whole body sensing. So how can you respond to an impulse of your performer by sensing them through your spine? How can you respond by sensing them through the back of your head? So imagine that like the physical performer is in front of the camera and she has her back to the camera, but she can always sense precisely where that camera is. So like the camera and the performer almost starts breathing and being as one, like this constant duet.
And this is polyphonic attention, or this is what you would create using
So polyphonic attention is the whole body sensing.
I see.
But I would like to
Be
then
able to
try and
sense
apply
the
that
camera.
to film, which I haven't done yet. But
Wow.
that's what I want to do in my next film. But I think this would mean I would need to schedule into the rehearsal time, almost like, maybe this sounds crazy and all the DPs listening to this were like, no, thank you. But I would like to do a movement workshop with the camera team and with the performers. So we can all start breathing as one, sort of like you would prepare an ensemble for theatre. So when we go into the, when we're shooting, we're all working together and we're all moving around each other, just like choreography,
Form of communication that if you created could be such a special thing and unique to your project, because most teams don't have time for something like that.
No, exactly. This is what I mean when I work on other people's projects. I can never do that.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
You have to do it yourself.
When it's my project, I can reinvent the way that we do things.
Yeah.
Who was it? I was talking to someone the other day, but that said something like, just because something's been done over and over again, it doesn't mean that it can't be changed. And I think, oh yeah, let's change it a bit. Why not?
How did you find your team for her fight? Did you know them already? Your camera team?
Yeah, I did know lots of them already. And yeah, they're brilliant. Lots of them have worked with me many times. Yeah, I tend to like work with people and then I really like working with them. Maybe that's really bad to say, but I like working with them again and again.
No, that's good to say. That's the creating a community, a creative, supportive community that you want to keep working with.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. That's how, think about it. There are big working teams that work together over and over again. Yeah. And in films, you usually recognize them as the actors, right? Christopher Guest's team, the comedy that they do together. What are their names? Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, Parker Posey. They work together all the time because they understand each other, they know how each other works, and they love creating things together. And I think that there are lots of teams like that you'll notice work on things together over and over again. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. That's the magic of this industry, is you find people that you love and you want to work with together and create things together. What was your festival experience like?
What was my festival experience like? There was definitely highs and lows. Like, it's just so much work. It is a lot of work, and it's not like there was like a producing team or anything like that. Like, it's me. Yeah. And at the same time as doing the festival circuit, I was also doing my masters, so that was interesting.
Phoebe, are you financing your projects yourselves, or are you finding funding?
This one I financed myself.
Okay, girl.
Yeah.
Hear it?
This one I financed myself. Do you want to know how?
How?
So this is quite a funny story. So a few years ago, I did like maybe I can't say the brand. I did a branded commercial.
Okay.
They gave me a buyout for this commercial, and it was a terrible day on set. It was really not a good day. Like
oh no,
we were working with just like quite a nasty DP, to be honest. Like I know he said some questionable things, but anyway, to move on from
no, don't move on. What did he say?
No, I can't. I can't say that. But he was just wasn't very nice to the actors, and we love actors, so we don't do that. But yeah, I had this buyout, and on this day of the set, I was like, right, that's it. I'm going to make my own work. I'm done with this. I'm going to make my own work. Whatever I get from this advert, I'm going to put it towards a film, and that's exactly what I did, and that's how I financed Her Fight.
Phoebe Stapleton.
But super lucky, like super privileged that I didn't have to save that money. I was working another job alongside that, so it meant that I had this pot that I wanted to use and to make it into a film. Festival experience.
What was your submission experience even?
Oh, lots of applications. And as someone that is a neurodivergent artist, I'll always advocate that I think our industry needs to completely relook at the way in which we approach application. I think it's an incredible shame that so many applicate that.
Right.
But so yeah, that was like really, really hard to navigate exactly everything that this film was and then condense it down into little applications. But we got through it, and then we submitted, and then it did really well. It went to like several different film festivals. But the best festival that we did for sure was we got into BFI Film Future Festival.
Wow.
Which was
that's
incredible.
Huge.
It was absolutely incredible, and I didn't expect it at all. And it was on the biggest screen at the BFI, and I just sat there and I was like, oh wow, this is my film. Like, yeah. And like you felt, shout out to our sound designer again, composer Ines Yellowlease, but you felt the music, like you saw the movement, and then you felt that on your body. It was so cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but also bad because it's made me like absolutely addicted to it now.
Right, now you have to keep doing it because it turned out so well.
It turned out so well. Everyone was so cool as well. Like, I think loads of these like big institutions, I always have a bit of like oh God, am I going to fit in here? That kind of energy. But when you actually go to them, people were really nice. People were really nice, and it was just like a really creative environment of loads of different filmmakers coming together and like sharing different tricks and like just experiences. It was really beautiful.
That is so cool. Did you do a lot of panels and conversations?
As in me talking on the panels? Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did. Where did I do a panel? I did it like one of the film festivals in Manchester. I did a panel, and
How did you feel? Scared?
Yeah, I'm not the best at panels. I actually, Bryony was there, the performer that night. I was like, Bryony, isn't it great that you're here? You should come up on stage with me. And then when I don't want to answer a question, Bryony can answer the question. And it was interesting on these panels. There was like another film on the panel up there who had like an incredible budget and had like loads of famous actors in it and all of this. The little Her Fight was on the end. And but everyone wanted to ask questions about Her Fight because it was told through movement. Yeah. And people wanted to understand that. They wanted to be like, so many people, but why? Well, why? Why no text? And I love this question of why no text.
What would you say when they asked why no text?
For me, text just isn't a necessity at all. I think the body has like a far richer and greater language than words can ever have. And for me, the body is enough.
Oh, we got to pop back a little bit because this is not the first time Phoebe and I have had headphones and mics on in the same room. Phoebe and I were on the radio.
We were. I think it was Radio Hackney.
Radio Hackney.
Radio Hackney or Radio East London or something.
Yeah. And I feel like you did an awesome job talking on that. I remember sitting and being like, Phoebe's really good at this.
That's kind. That's kind. I remember being absolutely terrified that day.
It was nice because you got a chance to talk, because you didn't get to talk in that production
I had a
at
chance to
all.
talk. I had a tongue at the moment. I had hands at the moment. I can't remember what they asked though.
No, I don't remember anything. Like, I wonder if we could find that somewhere, like on an old transcript of it or something.
I remember thinking, oh, this is quite cool though, isn't it? And we got to take that photo outside the studio.
Yeah.
That was nice. I still got that photo.
That's on my Instagram. We'll also drop it on this, a little throwback for the day that this drops. Okay, Phoebe, what's up next?
What's up next?
What you planning? I know you're planning something. What are you planning?
There's lots going on at the moment, which is great. But so I'm doing something completely different this week. But I'm working on a costume design show.
Whoa!
Yeah, it's at the V&A, so it's like a beautiful, beautiful location. But it's I'm movement directing and directing it, but it's all about costume.
How does that work? How does movement directing the costume design show work?
You tell me, Haley. No, I'm joking.
Have you not started this prep yet? What are you doing?
No, it's nearly ready, which is great.
Okay, good.
So I was thinking loads about, so there's like 19 different costume designers and costume interpreters, and then there's 19 actors. So I have to think about the way in which the costume influences the body. So how does it change the breath? How does it change the way that we stand? How does it change the way that we look? How does it tell sort of the character and the story through the costume? Yeah. So yeah, it's a really interesting project, and yeah, I never really thought about movement in that sense before, but it's more like a fashion show than a performance kind of thing.
But it's going to be a really cool fashion show.
It's going to be really
Is this
cool.
something you're shooting, or did you say it's live?
It's live, but because it's me, I'm like, got another idea for this.
There might be some media involved.
Yeah, exactly. I might just rock up with a camera. It's in the paintings gallery.
Whoa. Oh.
Yeah.
That's very cool for you.
It's very cool.
So cool. So Phoebe, you went to a regular old theater school.
Yeah.
You went to theater school in London. Just outside of London, but in London. And you had the regular conservatory experience, right?
Yeah. Well, my course was a little bit more quirky than I'd say the regular one, because it was the contemporary theatre course. So you trained to be an actor, but you also trained in like devising theatre and creating companies and yeah.
Okay, so that feels like it was like a little more well suited
definitely
to you then.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have hated a regular course?
I think so. Yeah.
Just like learning your lines and doing Chekhov.
I wouldn't know what I was doing. Like, yeah, I think I'd be bored. Like, yeah.
Right. So I mean, then you finished that, but you didn't create a theater company, and you did devise some stuff, didn't you?
I devised some stuff, and I worked in lots of different theatre companies.
Yeah. So how do you translate that stuff that you learned into create? Because you didn't learn how to make a film.
Yeah.
So how do you translate the things that you learned in drama school for theater, devising theater, creating contemporary theater, into film production?
Yeah. I thought about this a lot when I was working on Her Fight, because I am from a theatre background. So whenever I'm thinking of images in my head, it sort of goes more to the theatre realm.
Really?
So I start almost crafting it in the theatre realm. Okay. Then I'm like, okay, so now I know how to do it in theatre. How can I then put that on film? So for example, stuff like in theatre, through movement, if I want to show power and dominance, then I'm going to place the performer probably centre stage, maybe further closer to the audience so they seem bigger to us. Maybe I'm even going to turn the performers back to the audience to just show that they're so powerful that they don't even need to look at the audience. They know that the audience is going to look at them. So then I'm thinking about, okay, so I know how to show power in theatre. How can I then translate that onto film? So I start thinking about, what can I take across? I can take across the idea of the performer facing away from the camera. I can then use a tracking, so the camera is going to go really low and then pan up to look at the performer. So exactly the same in theatre, that they end up taking up the whole screen and appearing really powerful. And then I was using a lot of like actor intention with Bryony, because I always want to make sure that the movement is never just movement because I think it looks nice. It has to always have a meaning. They have to always be telling the story, just like you would with text. So we thought a lot about intention, and when we set up the shots, I would then really describe the shots to Bryony of, okay, so you're in the center of this cage and the camera is going to be above you. And then I'm trying to encourage the performer to think about the shot and know how much of themselves are in the shot, but also to start to understand like the metaphor behind the shot. You know, we're all talking to the same story here. If we're trying to show that this is a moment of, let's take the intention to squash, I squash you. I'm going to show that with my camera by placing it above the performer, looking down on the performer. So I'm trying to seep into the performer's mind that the camera is also part of this part of this dialogue.
Right.
It's expressing the same metaphor as us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The way that you think about camera is so emotional.
Definitely.
It's a character for you.
Yeah.
Does the camera have its own story for you as part of, it seems like it's such a part of the story that you're telling? Does it also have, you know, the character has their own story, their own backstory, their own thoughts and feelings? Does the camera also have that for you?
Relating this to Bryony, the performer, so when we were talking about actors' intentions through the movement, she was imagining that the camera was different people in her life. And she was portraying that through the movement at the character. And it meant we did things like she would give me the first letter of this person's name, and then just before the movement I would say the letter of that person's name, and then she directs all of the energy at the camera in that sense.
Did it change? It really
Definitely.
did change.
Definitely. And I think this is what's so beautiful about working with dancers and physical performers, of like when they really understand intention, it can then definitely ripple through the whole body. So they receive the intention in their mind, but it also reaches all the way down to their feet, and yeah, they're just wonderful.
Wow.
But also relating the camera to myself as Phoebe, like I've always worked with film. Like I remember going way back, even when I was like really young in school. So because of my neurodivergence, I was really, really struggled in school. I was rubbish at any sort of writing or essays or reading or anything like that. So then whenever I got set like an assignment, like to write an essay, instead of writing the essay, I'd make a film. And I'd tell it, what I was trying to say in my ideas, I'd tell it through the film.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I do have a very emotional connection with film. I remember like one...
That's was that accepted? Was that... No.
Definitely not. That's definitely not.
It should have been.
It should have been. But this wasn't actually an essay, but it was like an art assignment for... Everyone had to draw like sketches of an apple over a month. I was like, oh my God, so boring. And I'm rubbish at drawing. I don't want to sketch an apple. So instead I like set up a shot that you see this apple decaying over time. And then I submitted that. My art teacher was like, no,
this was not the assignment.
That is not the assignment.
You're like, but it's art and it's an apple and it was over time.
Exactly. And it's more interesting.
Way more interesting.
But, yeah. So it's always been, and even now on my masters, I'm still discovering this of how can I say my opinions and thoughts and research through film. So Central have been incredible when it comes to neurodivergence, but they've let me do my whole dissertation as like a portfolio.
Oh, that's
so
great.
Rather than writing my essays, I now create like visual essays. So I'm portraying my essay through film, and yeah, it's just wonderful.
That's great. What sort of visual essays are you creating?
At the moment, I'm researching the relationship between movement and the neurodivergent performer. So I'm thinking, how can movement help neurodivergent performers to physically step into text? So rather than feeling restricted as if there's like a barrier to text, how can movement help you to step in more of like a multi-sensory way? So as if you're picking up like the world of this character and physically stepping inside them. So yeah, my essays are fun.
Phoebe, this is actually a really beautiful service that you are doing for neurodivergents around the world who struggle with schoolwork. Because if you are doing this on an MA and it's being, accepted, and it's now, it's something that people hopefully would be able to find eventually, you could change education with it. Very possibly.
That's very kind. There's lots and lots of movement practitioners and lots of practitioners. Shout out to Deborah Groves, who actually supports me with my neurodivergence, but there's loads of people researching this at the moment. I think it's, a really exciting time, because I think so many people in our industry are neurodivergent, and yet we're expected to just step into these rehearsal rooms and pick up and blend in with the neurotypical way. Why? We have ideas of doing things as well. Let's adapt. You might like it.
Right. Might be better.
Yeah, you might like
be
it.
more exciting.
Exactly.
What made you decide that Central was the right place for you? That you wanted to go back to school?
From what I understand, that is the only movement direction course in the UK. I think there used to be another course, but I think that is now the only one. So, and also my tutors on this course, like, they're brilliant. That's, it sounds really cheesy to say, but they're so brilliant. And yeah, I feel like very, very inspired by this course. And if anyone is interested in getting into movement direction, then please check out the movement directing and movement teaching course at Central, because it's wonderful. So I work as an associate lecturer as well. I work at UAL and I teach movement to actors now, which is great.
Okay. So you're taking this course, but you're already done.
I know.
You're already doing the things.
Yeah. So I'm in my second year. So this whole second year is like, you write your dissertation. Well, I create my dissertation, but alongside that I work. So I work as a lecturer, but it's an interesting dynamic being a student and also a lecturer at the same time.
Right. What is this, how is it being a lecturer? I mean, are you lecturing?
I don't know, Hayley. I don't know if I'm lecturing. I personally love it. I think it's made me a better artist now that I teach, because I'm constantly looking at actors. I'm constantly working with different bodies in the space and thinking about adaptation and translation. So how can I take one form and translate it so everyone can access it? And I think, that makes me a better movement director than when I'm going out and working with different companies as a freelancer.
So, Pheebs, what is your schedule like? This sounds impossible.
Yeah.
That you're movement directing, you're on a course, you're building films by yourself, and you're teaching. What else are you doing?
I think that might be at the moment.
Okay, but how?
I don't know how at the moment. It's been a very busy time, but I hope things calm down a little bit soon so that I can complete my masters.
What's your community like? Do you feel like you have a supportive community around you that you can socialize with, but also like depend on?
Definitely. And the movement community. Just movement people in general. Have movement people in your life. They are very nice people and they're so warm, and I think movement people are definitely listeners. Yeah. They'll always listen to you. And I've got a really nice movement community. And I've got a really strong support network. I've got a great group of friends, a small group of friends, but that's great for me.
Great.
Exactly.
Is this a weekly schedule, or is it more an independent work that you're doing on your master's?
This year's independent work completely.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you can kind of fit it around things.
Definitely.
Are you planning another film?
I am.
Okay, you don't have to tell us anything, but what can you tell us?
I think I can tell you a bit. The ideas are still definitely forming, and so I think it's about touch. I think it's about the importance and impact of touch. You will also, of course, be told through movement. Maybe some text. I don't know.
Do you have funding left over from the other one, or is
Absolutely
this
not.
Gonna be a little bit more difficult to pay for?
I've got buttons left over. That's what I have.
Guys, send Phoebe some money.
No, but this is another thing. I want to do like a proper fundraiser for this one.
I know you don't even need good luck. You need break a leg, because it's going to happen. No matter what, we know it's going to happen. And it's going to be awesome. Phoebe, where can people find you online?
I think the best place would be Instagram, and I'm at Phoebe Stapleton.
Okay, great. And at Central, you can see her there. And at UAL, if you want her to teach you. Yeah, come to UAL. Learn from Phoebe Stapleton. Also, how do you feel about people reaching out if they're interested in movement and they need some advice or cool with people?
I'd love that.
DMs?
Yeah, definitely send me a DM. And I really would like to, if you want to talk about movement, let's do it. Because when I was unsure about what a movement director was and if it was the right thing for me, I reached out to a lot of movement directors and they all replied to me and they all supported me. So I would love to do the same back.
I love that. I love the arts. I love that people love helping each other.
I
People realize that someone helped them and that at some point someone's going to need their help. And that's kind of like a theme that we've had on this podcast, is just, it's so gorgeous to know that there are people who will champion you. Are you cool if we share her fight?
Yeah, share
Okay.
it. Share it. I think it's pretty much done with the festival circuit now. Yeah.
All right, we'll drop links for everything. You can find Phoebe, you can find her work. Phoebe taught me, I always think about a warm up that you taught me that you used
Power
to
jumps.
do. No.
Oh.
Sunshine, Moonlight, Good Times. Do you remember that one? So Phoebe would lie on her back in like a plow pose, like you know, like in yoga, like a plow pose.
Sunshine.
With your arms and whip her legs forward and her head up and her hands forward and go sunshine, and then we'd go back. Moonlight. Good times. And that was, I still do that warm up.
I've forgotten it.
Fucking love that warm up. It gets me, it like wakes you up.
Buzzes you.
It gets you so excited and buzzy. And that was something that you taught me.
Amazing.
Let's do ins and outs.
God, I'm so rubbish at this kind of thing. What is out? I don't know.
What do you like?
What do I like? As in, like, in life?
I like your outfit. Your outfit is in today.
Thank you.
Phoebe has the coolest outfit on. She has a shirt. Is that a long white dress? Or is it a shirt?
So it's a long black dress that I guess looks a bit like a bin bag with straps. And then I've got a little white t-shirt on.
And a vest. A vest in between.
Vests are in.
Very cool vest.
Get some vests.
Vests are in.
Vests
You're right.
are in. What's out?
Sexual misconduct.
Definitely. I don't think that should have ever been in.
Also DPs who say mean things to actors.
Yeah.
Although we're a little bit grateful for that guy, right? Because if it hadn't been for him, we wouldn't have her fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we could have had it without him. You're a creative person. You didn't need someone to be rude to you on set.
Tuna in a can.
Oh, ew! Canned fish, disgusting. Yeah. It's out. It's out.
Get it out.
Get it out. Thank you so much, Phoebe. I said it before. I am starstruck. Phoebe, I love you so much as a person and as a friend.
Oh.
And I'm so happy that I got to see you today. But I also am a huge fan. It's very exciting to get to see you keep chasing in the direction that you really have always been so true to yourself and chasing. And it's so exciting to see it grow into something like bigger and bigger and now become something that can change things for other people and that people can learn from.
Thank you.
Because you've been teaching me for years.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.